Okay, welcome to Divine in Our Time, where we believe that God has not ceased to be a God of miracles. We hope to help lift, edify, give hope, whatever you need today. We hope that this will bring you peace, comfort, and help maybe remind you of some of the miracles you've had in your own life or help you to recognize miracles going forward. Today, I have Cammie Williamson on, and she is going to share with us some miracles that have happened in her life during some hard times, some miracles that she didn't get the healing miracle that we all think of or that we all want, or the suddenly everything's fixed miracle. But we're excited to talk to her. I actually grew up with Cammie. We worked together for years and years. She was in my parents' singing group. She even dated my brother for a little bit. So she's been around our family and around me a lot growing up. So I'm super excited that she reached out, and I was not expecting it at all. And I'm so excited to hear about the miracles that have happened for her and that have helped kind of more fully convert her to Christ and the knowledge that she's a child of God. And so, Cammie, if you want to go ahead, let's hear it.
All right. Just some backstory about me and my family. I've always been pretty close with my parents. I'm 9 years younger than all the rest of my siblings, so I grew up spending a lot of time with my parents, and especially my dad, because my mom was like cooking and cleaning, and I was a tomboy. So I hung out with my dad a lot. He would always be like going out to fix a fence or feed the cows, and I'd be like, "Can I come?" And he would say, "It's probably not going to be very fun, but yeah, I guess you can come. Maybe you can find some frogs or something," because I was a tomboy, so I wanted to go catch frogs. I spent a lot of time with my dad because he did the outside stuff, and that's what I wanted to do. And then the cool thing is that when we moved back to the area after college, we had 3 little boys, and I started teaching dance, and my parents would watch the kids while I was teaching dance. So not only was I really close with my parents, but my kids got to be really, really close with my parents. And we ended up having a 4th little boy while my parents were still watching my kids. My parents babysat those kids every week for me while I was at dance, and they were all really close. And, at that point, my dad was retired. He'd take them for 4-wheeler rides. He'd take them in the truck to go catch salamanders. They just were with him all the time. Yes, they loved it. And then they'd come home, and grandma and grandpa would read stories and watch shows, and it was the best. They had a really, really good relationship with my parents. Awesome. So it was awesome. Yeah. And so then in 2019, I was pregnant, and we were finally having a baby girl. And we'd been waiting for a baby girl for a really long time. And we found out, my dad had been sick. He couldn't breathe very well. He sounded like he had gunk in his lungs, and he'd just been sick for a while. And finally he was like, this has got to be something more than just, the common cold. And he went in and he was diagnosed with lung cancer. And they tell you not to Google what they have or whatever. Well, I did. I Googled lung cancer, of course. And the life expectancy, and it literally said 3 to 4 months. And I was about 3 to 4 months away from having a baby. And I thought, he might not even get to meet my daughter at all. And that was really upsetting for me, especially because we've always known that we were going to name our baby girl after my dad's mom. He's always been really close with his mom. When she was in the nursing home, him and his brothers went every single day to feed her lunch. And he just was such a mama's boy, and he took good care of his mom. And even growing up, every Sunday we went to my grandma and grandpa's house to visit and just make sure they were okay. So
I love that. I didn't realize that your grandma lived in town. Did your mom's side live in Bear Lake?
Yeah. So my mom's parents lived in Paris, just down the road from us.
Okay.
And so we saw them a lot too. And then my dad's mom lived out in Lanark, so not very far away.
I love it. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So he was really close with her, and I really wanted him to get to meet Eliza, because my grandma passed away before I was able to have her namesake. So I
Uh-huh.
kind of always picture her like sending her down from heaven to me. That makes me
Yeah.
feel better about it because I'm like, every time I was pregnant, I'd go visit my grandma and I'd be like, well, I might have an Eliza in my belly. And it was
Yeah.
always a boy. And then she passed away before I was able to have this little girl. So anyway, but yeah, so I remember getting in the shower and just like ugly crying. I didn't want my kids to see me upset or whatever. So I just took it all out in the shower and just bawled for a while. Um, but he went and he got more tests, and what they figured
Mm.
out and what they found out is that there was a pill that they wanted to try. And the
Okay.
doctors said that this pill would probably work really, really well for around a year. It was different for everyone, but for most people, it would work really good for about a year and then it would just stop. And
Okay.
so we were like, all right, let's try that. And maybe there'll be something else we can do from there or whatever. And it took a long time for the medication to come. Like there was lots of my mom was on the phone a lot. There was a lot of confusion, and one person would drop the ball here, and it
Just
just
fighting
felt
with insurance and trying to get
yes,
everybody to communicate and babysitting everybody
yes,
all along the way. And
yes. And
yeah,
it's one of those things where you're like, couldn't have God just made that easier, right? Like, couldn't He have
yeah,
just made that lady remember this, or like this person call that person and whatever?
yeah.
Well, it was just kind of a mess. But when he did finally get the medication, he started feeling better like immediately.
So how long
Um,
did it take to get the medication where he's looking at 3 to 4 months? How long did it take to actually get that medication and
I've
start on that?
So I'm so bad at remembering like dates, and
Uh-huh.
I'm not a timeline person very well, but I
Okay.
feel like it was probably at least a month that he was just miserable and waiting. So it
Oh.
was bad. Um, but as soon as he got that medication, he started feeling better. Like he started golfing again. He started doing
Oh
some
my
of the
goodness.
things. So that was great. And
Yep.
we felt so blessed. Um, my parents were like in the process of selling their house during that time, and it was just like a lot.
Yeah.
Their house was just too big. They had a lot of stairs and stuff, and with him not feeling well, they wanted to sell, and they had bought land and they had a plan and everything, so they were like ready to move forward, but it just
Yep.
was a lot of work, you know.
Yep. Yep.
So anyway, he felt pretty good for a while, and he got to meet my Eliza. But the thing that I felt like God saw me. The thing that I felt like was a blessing and a miracle and made me feel like even though this is hard, God is aware that this is hard for me, is that sorry.
You're fine.
Ah, is that I've never had early babies. I've never had my water break on my own. Like they always have to start me. It's always kind of a pain. But
Yeah.
for Eliza, I remember we'd had like a big family dinner, I think the night before, and it was my dad's birthday the next day. And everyone
Okay.
was like, Cammy, just have that baby on dad's birthday. And I was like, yeah, right.
Yeah.
It's 2 weeks early. That's not going to happen. But my water broke, which had never happened before. And she came on my dad's birthday. And I just felt like that was God saying, I see you, you know,
Yeah.
he does get to meet her, and it's going to be on his birthday.
Yeah.
So it was pretty special.
Do you feel like that was maybe
We
like
got
a
to come
little
to
love
the
note?
hospital and hold her.
Do you feel like maybe that was a little love note too from grandma?
Yes,
Like,
absolutely.
here's your
Yeah,
namesake. I
I do.
appreciate you. Oh, I
Like to
love that.
make her boy smile on his birthday, like that's
Yes.
her present to him.
Yes.
Yeah.
I love
Yeah.
it.
It was so
That's
good. And my oldest son, he'd wanted a baby sister like every time I got pregnant. And he'd like cry sometimes when he was little, like, oh, another brother.
Oh, bless
So,
his heart.
he held her and he just was like just loving it. They were all so excited to have this little girl.
Oh.
But I was in preparation for talking to you today. I'd been reading my journal, which I'm not great at journaling, but I did write down stuff about when I had Eliza and about my dad, because I felt like there were so many tender mercies and I didn't want to forget them, because it's easy to see all the hard things and to forget those little tender mercies, you know?
Yep.
But I had specifically written in my journal, I know that Eliza was sent to us at this time because um, just to bring joy to my family. Like, she was the happiest baby I have ever met. You would look at her and she would just break out into a giant grin. Um,
Mm,
we'd walk into the room to visit and everyone, it would just be heavy. You know, dad was in pain and it was hard.
yeah.
And we'd walk in with Eliza and it just kind of made it so you could breathe for a minute. It just brought a little bit of sunlight into the room. And that was
Yeah.
helpful.
Yeah.
So I feel like she was definitely sent at the right time. We waited a long time for her, but it was the right time for her to come.
Oh,
So,
it's so true. You did wait a long time. And what better time could you have had a little girl that was going to be named Eliza, and everybody knew it was going to be named Eliza since you were in how old? Like, when did you decide that you were going to name
I
your baby Eliza?
my grandma's name was Bessie Eliza, and
Okay.
I didn't know her middle name until I was in middle school, and I was
Okay.
like, "Grandma, your middle name is beautiful." And she was like, "Oh, yeah, it is kind of pretty, I guess." And I was like, Grandma, if I have a baby girl, well, I said when, because I was in middle school, so I just
Yep,
assumed,
yep.
of course, I'm going to have a
You knew
baby girl.
exactly how life was going to go for you in middle school.
Exactly. Yeah. So I
Yes.
was like, when I have a baby girl, I'm going to name her Eliza after you. And she was like, "Oh, that's sweet. You don't have to, but that is super sweet."
Uh-huh.
So like, I've known forever. And when I married my husband, I told him, if we have a girl, we're naming her Eliza. And he's like, "I don't really like that name." And I was like, "I'm sorry. I already
You're
told
like,
my
we can't
grandma."
get married. We can't get married.
I know. So he was like, okay." He picked out her middle name. Her middle
Okay.
name's after his mom. And so we're good.
Okay. Oh, that's pretty. That's a pretty name. All
Yeah.
right. Well, you're exactly right. You're exactly right. Like, you couldn't have had, this was the perfect time for her, and to have the connection with your dad, and like, that's so special, and so, like, there's just, God has the perfect plan and his timing's always perfect. So anyway,
Yes. Yeah.
so how long after Eliza was born, how much time did you guys have with your dad after that?
So we had about 6 months. She was about 6 months old when he passed
Okay.
away. So obviously, like, she doesn't remember him, but we we always celebrate his birthday with her birthday. And so she knows about my dad, obviously. Like, we've taught her
Yeah.
about grandpa, and she knows we always have a Coke on her birthday for grandpa.
Was her being born on the birthday, and you knowing that that was a gift from God, how did that change your perspective, or how did that help you deal with this really difficult loss?
I mean, I knew at that point, I knew I was going to lose my dad. So that was hard.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I was just so glad that he got to meet her, that
Yeah.
I was like, it was kind of like relief from that point on, because I was just like, at least he got to meet her.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
um it helped for sure. It helped me feel like relief that God let him stay to see my daughter.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah. I feel like in my own life, at least, just knowing that God is so aware, like, having those things, that there's no way that God's hand wasn't in this. There's no way God didn't do this specifically for me. I feel like that it takes so much of the sting out of whatever it is that you're going through, right? Like, I feel like,
Right.
at least for me, it has just really helped
Yeah. I
kind of
agree.
paradigm shift myself, as like, this is so hard to, you know what? I can do hard things. I can do all things in Christ, right? Like, he is
Yeah.
aware, and there's a huge amount of power in knowing that down in your bones, that God is aware of me, and he's aware of my family, and he sees everything that's happening right now. So,
Yeah. I agree. So I was thinking about, sometimes we see things and we don't realize they're a miracle till later.
yep.
And we were in the hospital with my dad, and it was about the time he decided he wasn't going to do any more treatments. The cancer was spreading pretty rapidly, and he was in a lot of pain, especially at night, which
Yeah.
so most of us didn't see. Like during the day, he was pretty good, but at night it wasn't good.
Yeah.
But so he was in the hospital. I think they were putting a port in or something. And he ended up throwing a blood clot. And my brother works at the hospital, and he told us all, if that blood clot would have stopped in his heart, then he would be dead right now. And it actually stopped in his lungs. And so it made it a little hard to breathe, but he was still with us.
Uh-huh.
And I have a hard time watching people suffer. And I was kind of like, why didn't God just let that clot stop in his heart so he didn't have to suffer anymore? Like, we're losing him anyway.
Yeah.
Like, why make him
Enough's enough.
suffer?
Let's
Right?
finish this. Like, this is, yeah, really, we were this far away from him having to be done with this trial. Like,
Yes.
yeah.
That's exactly how I felt. But he was still with us. And looking back on it, I'm glad, because we had some really special moments after that we wouldn't have had before. So that's when it just barely started to get pretty bad. And so we were gathering as a family, but we weren't there as much yet.
You knew
Like,
you
we
were going to
didn't
lose
realize.
him, but maybe we were going to lose him in a month or two, not
Yes.
tomorrow.
Exactly. At that point, we were like, it could really be any day. I don't know.
Yeah.
So they set up hospice at my sister's house.
Mm-hmm.
And we were visiting him a lot, and it was only really a week that he was still with us after that. But I remember one morning I got a call, and I guess they thought he was going to pass away that day. And they called and they were like, you better get over here to say goodbye. We were all standing around his bed, and we were all like holding his hands or touching his leg, or we had a hand on his foot, whatever. I have 5 siblings, and we were just all surrounding the bed and just touching him somewhere. And he called each one of us forward, like individually, and he gave us a hug, and he said, love you forever, and don't you forget it.
Mm-hmm.
And he said it to all of us. And then my sister wasn't quite there yet. She was on the road, and he's like, call Kim. I got to tell Kim I love her. And so he told her, and my niece was in the car with her. So he told them too, I love you, and don't you forget it. Like his casket says, love you forever, and don't you forget it on it, because he said it a lot. Anyway, though, so with the oxygen back in, he had a bad day, and he like slept most of the day. But while he was sleeping, me and my siblings were all out in the garage reminiscing, and just, giving each other our strength. And it was just really good to be with family. And then the next day, my dad actually had a great day. He drank Coke and peanuts with us, and we just all hung out. And I mean, he would rest on and off, but we'd still be together as a family. It was really good. So the day that he actually passed away, I feel like there was tender mercies all along the way, but one of them was that day Tyler had taken my oldest son. Oh, wait. So the night before, too, my kids had all gone to say goodbye, and I could tell it may be the last time that they would see him. And my little Nolan him and my dad had a special bond. Like, Nolan still, if we say anything about my dad, he just bawls. It's pretty rough. So he cried the whole way home that night, and I knew I wasn't going to bring him back because my dad was only getting worse. So yeah. So I knew that was it for Nolan. I wasn't taking him back. And my oldest really wanted to be there when my dad passed away, and I didn't think that would be good. So that morning, my husband had taken my oldest son, and they'd gone to go get firewood. And then I was supposed to bring everybody else up in a couple hours. And I got a phone call that was like, no, I think you better come. I think we're losing him. So I get the call, and I just told my other boys, I was like, hey, I have to run to town. I didn't tell them what was going on. I didn't want to upset them. I said, I'll be back in a little bit. And I took Eliza, and I had a friend that just told me, call me anytime and I will take her. And she picked her up at my sister's house where my dad was. She just picked her up from me and gave me a hug. And anyway, totally super supportive group of people around me, which was awesome.
Yep.
But I tried to call Tyler and they were out of cell phone service. So I was kind of glad because I didn't really want Peyton to be there. I think he's still mad about it to this day, but I just feel like it would have been upsetting and I didn't know how it would go. Like,
Yeah.
I didn't know if it would be painful. I didn't know if it would be traumatic. You know, I didn't know. I just didn't want my teenager to see that. So
Yeah.
anyway, so I kind of felt like they were out of cell phone service at that time
For a reason. Yep.
Yep. And so I went over to town and again, he hugged all of us, told us he loved us. And he told us, he's like, I'm ready to go. I want you to take the oxygen off and I'm just ready to say goodbye and be done. And so we understood because it was
Yep.
painful. So, and I feel like super blessed. Yeah, we took off the oxygen. We all, got our hugs and our loves and we all surrounded the bed again. And I just feel like so many people, for one, don't get that final goodbye. Even people that they know their person is going to pass away. Like I had a friend and his dad was unresponsive for the last week of his life,
Yeah. Yeah.
And yet here we were saying goodbye to my dad like minutes before he was about to pass away.
Yeah.
And then it was literally like so peaceful that we didn't even know if he was gone. My brother had to use his stethoscope to listen to his heart, to listen for when his heart quit beating, because we couldn't even tell from when he was alive to when he was gone. And I just don't think that happens to everybody. I feel like my dad was such a service-oriented person. I feel like he served everybody. He was always doing things for the people around him. And I feel like that was a blessing that he got from serving people. I think he got to pass away peacefully. So,
Yep. A beautiful transition, right?
Yes.
From this life to the next. Surrounded by everybody he loved here to be received by everybody he loves on the other side. Like,
yes, absolutely.
That's special,
yeah.
Tammy. Oh.
And then the other really cool thing was my husband's a graphic designer. Mm-hmm. And so he does vinyl stuff and he had never thought about doing a casket before until just a couple years before someone had asked him if he could put some stuff on a casket. And because he had that experience, he was like, I would like to do your dad's casket. And he made it so personal. Like he went through old pictures and he like did silhouettes from old pictures. And
that's
it was
so cool.
Yes, it was beautiful. And they were all like pictures with kids because my dad was the most patient man in the world. And he was always surrounded with his grandkids and with his kids. And he just, so there were like, it was like a horse silhouette with like two kids on the back, and because that's just how he was. He always had the kids and he, he had a golfer silhouette too, because he loved golfing and
of course.
All that stuff. But it was just really special that we could make every little thing kind of like special,
That's a great idea. That's a really neat idea. Oh. Well, and like you said, you guys got to have that last week where you all got to be together and really got to mourn together.
I kind of feel like it was cool that my husband and son were up getting firewood too, just because just the mountains remind me of my dad. So I was able to go find them up in the mountains after, he had passed so that I could let them know and stuff. But
how did Nolan do? Had he already kind of accepted it the night before, or was it still really, really hard?
I think it was still hard, but Peyton was mad.
Yeah.
Peyton, when he's upset, that's kind of his go-to kind of emotion. And that's one of the reasons I was kind of bummed that we lost my dad when we did, because I was like, I feel like Peyton could really use that strong male influence of patience and calm and not losing your temper. So, but he was mad at me. He was really mad that he was up cutting firewood and he wasn't there and I was like, Peyton, it was really just me and my siblings and my mom,
Yep.
So I don't know. Anyway, but that was hard for him. Nolan was crushed, but he was sad, but Peyton was mad, and I do better
Yeah.
with sad than mad. So I don't know. I know
You're
what
like,
to do with
Tyler,
sad people.
this one's for you. This one's
Pretty much.
you're in charge of Peyton. I'll take Nolan on this.
Yeah.
Oh,
But
wow.
yeah.
That's
Yeah, I don't know.
a hard
It's
time.
hard, but if you look at, I mean, everyone dies.
Yep.
Everyone
We
dies.
all have to do it. Yep.
And so if you look at the way he died and all of the things leading up to it, it really does feel like there were so many tender mercies. There were so many things that just made you feel loved and seen from God. So,
Yeah.
what else can you ask for at the end of the day, really?
Yep. We all have our stuff. We all, like we said, it's just knowing that God sees you in your trials and he's there is such a strength. I'm really sorry though. I'm sorry for. So did he die in 2020?
2019 in the fall.
So he was diagnosed early and died.
Yes.
Okay.
So he didn't, it wasn't even a year.
But even that, like if like if it had been 6 more months, you wouldn't even have gotten to go to a funeral.
I think that it was really hard for my mom. The whole social distancing right after my dad had passed away.
Yeah.
That was really, really hard because we all thought for sure if we stay in for 2 weeks, no one's going to get this,
2 weeks
so
to
we
flatten the curve, that whole
that's
thing.
what we did.
Oh, goodness.
No, but you're right. Like we may not have been able to have a funeral. I know for Eliza's second birthday, we did it with Zoom, we just, so yeah.
Boo. What a mess.
Yeah.
Okay. So I don't know if you want to talk about this, but how does that, so you got to have this beautiful experience of letting your dad go. And even though it sucked and it was hard, like you can see God's hand, and it's nice to be able to have that closure and to be able to look back and remember all that. And how does that compare with like your sister? So real quick, Cammie, I don't know if some people might have seen on social, Cammie's sister, do you want to just tell us a little bit?
Sure. Yeah, I'll tell you
a little backstory on that.
So in 2023 in August, my sister went missing. She had a traumatic brain injury and she was on medication. And periodically she would either get off of it or it would get unbalanced or whatever. And she would go through some things where she would feel like paranoid. She would like see things that weren't there.
When did she get a TBI? When did she get that?
When about 2002-ish, like when I was graduating high school.
Was it a car wreck?
No, it's the weirdest thing. She literally was in the bathroom, passed out and hit her head. And then from then.
Oh, okay. Yes. I think I remember hearing about that though.
Yeah. So it was like nothing that could have been, prevented.
Avoided.
Or anything like that. No, she
just super random.
Okay. Yes, definitely. Okay. And then, pretty much the whole time I was in high school, they kind of had her over medicated and she just didn't really feel anything. Like when she described it later, she was like, it was kind of like I lost 8 years of my life. Like I didn't feel happy or sad. I could hear what everyone was saying, but I just couldn't like work up any emotion or any reaction to it. So she was there, but kind of not really,
Yeah.
So that was hard. And then she got a new doctor and so they got it to where she was more balanced and could actually enjoy life again. I mean, so after my dad passed away, we had been planning to go to Mexico to celebrate their 40th wedding anniversary. And my dad ended up passing away and didn't make it to their 40th. And, no, did he make it? I don't know, but he didn't make it to Mexico. He didn't make it to the celebration. Right. Yeah. And we decided we were all still going to go. My mom was kind of iffy. She didn't know if she was going to go or not. And we were all like, if you go, we'll go. If you don't go, we won't. But she ended up going. And my sister, Chris, was there with us. And so Chris and I got to drive to the airport together and stuff. And Chris is 16 years older than me. Mm-hmm. So like growing up, she was more like an aunt, and not even like a chummy aunt, kind of like just she was like a babysitter. I don't know.
A distant aunt, an aunt that you just kind of see every once in a while.
Yeah, like I mean, I was at like she would babysit me if my parents went out of town, but I just hung out with her kids
For
because they were
kids.
like close to
Yeah.
my age. So it was like they were my cousins instead of my niece and nephew, you know.
Yeah.
My nephew is only 4 years younger than me. So yeah, it's kind of a different dynamic. But I know on that trip we got visiting and I realized like me and my sister have a lot in common. And I was like,
Hmm.
oh, we are very similar. And
We
I just
really
always
are
assumed,
sisters.
right, we're alike. I didn't realize it, I guess. But anyway, so somehow her medication, I don't know if she quit taking it. I don't know if it got um, an imbalance. I don't know what happened, but she just got in her truck and she just drove away. And she drove to Nevada out in the
Yeah.
middle of nowhere, like nowhere.
Yeah.
And it wasn't a place any of us were familiar with. And she got to Battle Mountain, Nevada,
Okay.
and she called her husband. And I think she even, I don't know, I think she was like hearing voices, honestly. I don't know. But she ended
Mm.
up there and he said, just stay put. I will come get you. And so she went to get a hotel and her card was declined. And at that point, I guess her phone had died and she just got in her truck and drove again. Like she didn't wait for her
Oh.
husband. And, it was hours away. He had to drive
Yeah.
hours to get there. And by the time he got there, she was just gone. And so at that point, they started letting family know that she was missing. This happened periodically before where she would just kind of get in her car and drive off, but it was always like somewhere more local and we would track her down and it wasn't
A big
super
deal.
traumatic. Yeah.
Yeah.
So we all just figured we'd find her pretty fast. And my sister-in-law was like, we need to get on top of the social media stuff. We have to get her picture out there.
Hmm.
And so we immediately started doing that. And I remember I put a post up and a friend from college immediately contacted me and they had been they had adopted children. They couldn't have children or something, I'm not sure, but they were adopting. And she goes, hey, I've had a lot of people help me with the Facebook algorithm. I'm going to give you a rundown so you can get this out faster. And she literally was like, call me
Oh,
right now.
that's awesome.
It
That's
was great.
awesome.
So I called her and she immediately walked me through some things. And so we got going on the Facebook thing as fast as we could. And we got it out there. Um, which yeah, was super helpful. And
Hmm.
so many people shared it and so many
Yeah.
people contacted us. We got pictures, everyone had sent pictures and be like, could this be her, and people were just so helpful. And that was a great blessing for sure.
Yeah.
I do feel like there's been only a few times, but there's been a couple times in my life where God's kind of given me a heads up on something that was going to be hard, you know?
Yeah.
And this, I think, was one of those times. It was not long after I found out she was gone. And I remember just having like a voice in my head say, she's already gone. And I thought it was probably just me being pessimistic, but I
Hmm.
do really think she was probably already dead at that point. And I think God was giving me a heads up. So anyway, but me, I was just saying, oh, it's probably just me
I'm not
being a
going to share
pessimist.
that because I don't want to, yeah, I don't
Right.
want to bring everybody down and give the
Yeah.
bad energy and all the things.
Right. So I didn't say anything about it. It was just kind of my own little thing that happened. But anyways, so then for months, I spent 8 hours a day on my phone and it was hard. And my husband was kind of frustrated because my own little family was suffering and he was just like, I don't know if this is going to do any good. And I'm
Yeah.
like, well, I mean, I don't know if it is either, but I just can't not do everything that I can.
Yeah.
And, like when she first went missing, it was like hot. It was like a
Yeah.
heat wave in Nevada. It was over 100 degrees. And I was
Oh.
like, I don't know if she has shelter. I don't know if she has food. She didn't take anything with her because everybody asked, like, well, was this a plan? Did she have stuff packed? No, it wasn't a plan. Not at all. She just got in her car and drove off, like, well, her truck.
Mm.
She had a truck. Anyways, and she had her two dogs with her and she just drove off. And the last picture that we have of her is when she went into the hotel and her card got declined. Like they have a security camera like photo. And so that was the last time that we actually know for sure that she was alive. After that, we don't really know. But she went missing on, I can't remember if it was the 6th or the 7th of August. And then they found her truck abandoned just like in the foothills, kind of by Winnemucca in that area. I think it was the 14th or 15th, somewhere in there. So, you know, a weekish later.
Later.
Yeah.
And when did you had the thought though, 2 weeks after she had gone missing?
No, it was probably within like the first few days, honestly.
Oh, really? Okay.
Which, so the weird thing is there was one lady that lived in that area, and she's like, I swear I saw her car or her truck drive by, and it was seriously like the second day she was missing. And I don't even know that the family knew she was gone the second day quite yet.
Okay.
And she's like, I swear I saw that truck drive by that day. And if that were the case, and with the conditions the way they were, she probably she was not there long, you know. But anyways, they did a huge search all around the truck. We really wanted them to take dogs out, but there's been rain. You know, it's like all those things where you're just like, there could have been this miracle or there could have been that miracle. And I think we can get caught up on those, you know, like, well, why did it have to rain that weekend? Like they could have had the dogs and the scent, and they could have, you know, whatever. There's all of those what ifs, and it could have gone this ways, and we don't see the whole picture, and that helps me have comfort, is just that I don't know everything.
Yeah.
But yeah, they did a huge search. They couldn't find her. We had a lead in like Lake Tahoe where this lady said, oh yeah, I saw her down at the lake, and she said her 2 dogs were at the campground, and she said, my name's Christine, but everyone calls me Chris, and she kind of had a lazy eye, and it just sounded just like my sister.
Yeah.
And so we thought for sure, I mean, she was tough. She was a really tough lady. And we're like, she walked off that mountain for sure. She walked off that mountain. She got a ride to Lake Tahoe. I don't know why, but she did. She figured it out, and she's in Lake Tahoe, and we got to go find her, you know?
Yeah.
So I don't know, but she wasn't. And after we'd been searching
That's so random though, that this lady saw somebody that like everything.
Yeah.
Right? Like, what do you say to that?
Who has their 2 dogs up at the campground?
And who has a lazy eye and is like, would she have known any of that from the social media presence? This lady?
Like maybe. And I but she never asked for anything from us, you know, like the people that there weren't a lot. We were blessed in that way. There weren't a lot of people that tried to exploit our situation, but there were a few.
Isn't that so
and those
gross?
ones, it was the worst. Like one guy sent me a picture of her, and it was a picture we'd posted, but he'd manipulated it and put glasses on her or something ridiculous. And he's like, if you don't want her to get hurt, blah, 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 whatever. I can't remember what he said.
Gosh.
It was the worst.
So
that
gross.
day was bad. That was a bad day. But
I'm sorry.
like I said, for the most part, it was really people just trying to help.
How did you guys find out that wasn't legit? Like, was it obvious enough that he had manipulated it, or did the police, were they like, yeah, no, this is...
I absolutely knew, but the police officer asked me to kind of engage with him and see what he was trying to find out, and just... Okay. So I did for a while, and then he's like, all right, we're not getting anything from this guy, so he's like, just quit talking to him. And I'm like, can I just let him have it first? I was like, I had just had all those pent up emotions.
That's like such scum.
So I was like, I don't know who you think I am. I'm an admin on this page. Obviously, she's close to me. And so I would post the picture that he had manipulated. And I was like, this is obviously the same picture. And then he was like, oh, yeah, well, what about this one? And he'd post another one. And all he did was like put glasses on her again. And I'm like, that's this picture. Like, I'm like, dude. Anyway, so not very smart people, but they did try to manipulate the situation, which is sad. It was so sad. I was like, who are you?
Sad. Yeah, right.
Anyway,
right.
Like, yeah, but there really were only a couple of those. And the rest of the people were like legit trying to help. And we thought about going to Lake Tahoe to look for her, but we only had the one lead. And so we just got all the information to that area that we could. And we were kind of waiting to hear more. And it kind of petered out. And then people thought they saw her in Las Vegas. And we had people that were in Las Vegas, and they would look and they would ask. And So it was just kind of a roller coaster because we would always be like, I think we found her, and then we wouldn't. It wouldn't be her, you know?
Yeah.
So a couple months in, they decided to do another search of the area where her truck was found.
Mm-hmm.
And they just asked for anyone who wanted to go. So I went, and one of my best friends went with me. Tyler stayed home to, you know, hold down the
Hold down the
fort.
fort. Yep.
Yep. So I went and we walked along the area, and this was another time I felt like God was talking to me, but I remember just praying like, please help us find something. There's nothing out there. It was like a sagebrush field. So it would seem like it wouldn't have been a hard place to find someone, you
Yeah.
know.
Yeah.
But I remember just walking, and I remember getting the distinct voice in my head that was like, you can't find something that's not here. And we were not in the right place.
Yeah.
She was on the mountain, but she was 12 miles in a totally different direction. And, honestly, like I remember when I was getting ready to go, one of my friends is like, if you find something, she's not going to be alive at this point, because it was months later.
Yeah.
And I said, yeah. And she goes, do you still want to go? What
You
if
want to
you
see
find
that?
her?
Yeah.
Yeah. She's like, you'll never forget that.
Mm-hmm.
And I felt like I had to go anyway, but I am grateful that I wasn't the one to find her. So maybe that was one of those kind of tender mercies. I don't know how that would have affected me, but I don't think it would have been great.
Yeah.
So, but it did feel like I was doing something, and it felt productive to see where the truck was and to like see the area. So I'm glad I went. That was good.
Yeah.
But yeah, I remember we were talking about miracles at church, and people were talking about all their miracles, and someone had just mentioned, I think sometimes the miracle is just getting through the hard thing. And I was like, I love that, because I didn't get to find my sister alive. She could
And you
have.
didn't even find her for a very long time. I
No,
mean, you guys didn't
no,
find
like
her for.
we lost her in the fall, and they found her, early in the spring or still winter, whatever. But
Yeah.
so it could have been worse for sure.
Yeah.
But I just, I could sit here all day and say, why did she go there? Because if she would
Yeah.
have gone anywhere else in the world, not anywhere, but a lot of other places, she probably would have been found. But I had never been to that area. But when I went there, the police officer that was in charge of the search, he was like, hey, just be careful about people's property and fence lines. He's like, people out here live out here for a reason. They don't want to be bothered. They don't want to be, you know, it's a super remote place, and the people that live there don't want to
You're
be
like, don't get
helpful.
shot. Yeah.
Yeah, basically. And so for one thing, there was hardly anyone out there. And for
Yeah.
another thing, the people that were, if even if they saw her, I don't know that they would have helped. I don't know what they would have done, but they live out there because they want to be left alone. And so I'm just like, really, it was the worst place for her to go. Like, why? Why did she go there?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And I don't know. I hope I get to
Yeah.
know the answers someday. I don't know. But what I do know is that because I have faith, and because I know that she's not suffering anymore, I can find peace in that. And I can just trust that God has it under control. Because otherwise, I don't know how I'd get through it.
Yeah. Yeah.
And, there's some people that never get to find their person. And I'm pretty good at not worrying about things I can't change. And so I didn't spend all of my time worrying about if she had food and if she had water, because I knew no matter how much I worried about it, it wouldn't change her situation, and it would
Yeah.
only make it worse for me and my family. So I tried not to spiral out too often.
Yeah.
But the times that I did think about those things, it was heartbreaking. And I think about those people that don't know if their person's still out there suffering, or if someone's hurting them, if they have food, if they have shelter,
Yeah.
And my heart goes out to those people, because it sucks. It's not
Yeah.
good. But so we do feel very blessed that we did find her remains, and we were able to, have a funeral. Some people, their person is probably out there dead as well, but they don't know. So what do you do? Do you get to
Yeah.
have that celebration? I don't know.
Yeah.
Oh,
No, I can't imagine that.
yeah.
I can't imagine even going through what your family went through, let alone like the whole other thing that you hear about where people, it might be 20, 30 years before, or
Yeah.
maybe never.
Never.
And did
Yeah.
they know the cause of, like, are they just thinking it was like the elements, or like,
I
do they have any
it was
idea?
kind of like it was kind of inconclusive. I feel like the autopsy was, but
Okay.
that's kind of like the assumption. It was like I said, it was like a heat snap. So it was like hundreds of degrees during the day, and then after that it got all rainy, and so
And
I don't
she had
know.
hiked 12 miles away from her truck in that weather.
Mhm. Yeah.
Wow.
Yep. So it was, yeah, a lot, and it's just weird, like because of her situation without her medication, she like hiked 12 miles parallel to the road. She could have walked to the road, but she
Yeah.
didn't. I don't know if she was feeling paranoid. I don't know if she wasn't even thinking anything. I don't know. She just walked 12 miles away. It was weird. It was a weird situation. And anyway, yeah, I don't know. I don't know the answers. So it makes it hard.
So what miracles did you see, or looking back, what have you, are you removed enough yet to go, this was a miracle, or that was a miracle, or anything? You know what I mean?
I mean, I feel like the friend helping us out with Facebook for sure. That was, I mean, she's just a random friend from not high school.
College.
Yes,
College.
college. I'm like, what were the chances that she was even looking at my Facebook page when I posted
Yeah.
it, and then had the time to just have me call her right then. I feel like that definitely felt like, you know, we were getting some intervention there. And then just how many people were willing to look and help out for sure. And
Yeah.
just the fact that we found her, because really it, it's just like miles and acres of sagebrush. So the chances
Yeah.
of even finding her were kind of slim, really.
Was it
So
hunters that found her, or
hunters found her
hikers?
truck. Yeah,
Okay.
hunters found her truck, and then I think it was just like someone that owned the property up there,
Okay.
like a farmer or something like that. Just he's the one who found her remains. But yeah,
Mm.
so it was kind of just random. He just kind of ran into it, Otherwise, I don't know. I don't know that
Mm.
we would have found her. We weren't looking in the right place. Like I said,
Yep.
we
Wasn't
we
even
went from
close.
like, yeah, we looked at where her truck was, and we're like, logically you're going to go towards the road, and we all just went from the truck down towards, there was a river, and we
Yeah.
just all walked down to the river, and we didn't find anything. So
Yeah.
I don't
Mm.
know. It was kind of a fruitless search. We just kind of walked around. I don't
Which
know.
is also, again, maybe a blessing, right?
Yeah.
Like, maybe waiting a
Yes.
few months to have somebody else find her was the much better option.
Yeah. I agree. Especially my sister Lynette and her were really, really, really close.
Uh huh.
And Lynette was on that search. She was on horseback riding all over that mountainside. And I can't imagine what that would have done to her to find my
Yeah.
sister just a few months out, I can't
Yeah.
imagine that it would have been okay.
Yeah.
So,
Ugh.
so yeah, probably one of those blessings. Just the fact that we could have a funeral for her,
Yeah.
I do feel like that's a blessing because I don't know. I feel like all of these hard times give us the opportunity to gather as families. And I
Yeah.
feel like sometimes, unfortunately, we don't take that opportunity otherwise. And because she went missing in Nevada, and we were kind of waiting for more solid, we didn't all just rush out to Nevada because it's huge and it's
Yeah.
remote. So
Yeah.
we were just waiting for like more solid
Where do
whatever.
you
So we
even
didn't,
start something? Yeah.
right. So like we were supportive of each other online and through text and stuff, but we didn't get together as a family.
Mm-hmm.
Even when we went to do the search, not everyone could make it at that time. It was not all of the family was there. So I just think the fact that we were able to find her and have a funeral so that we could have that time together as a family, I feel like that's a blessing.
Yeah.
Um, it may feel like a letdown compared to finding my sister, but like I said before, everyone dies. Everyone dies.
Yep.
And we
Yep.
don't get to choose how it happens. but there are things along the way that can be a blessing. And I do feel like the opportunity to have a funeral for my sister and to gather, I feel like that was a blessing. And
How has this changed your like having these two different experiences, especially so close together? Has it changed your perception of death?
Yeah, I guess I just didn't really think about death all that much, you know? I
Yeah.
mean, it's definitely now. I mean, it's always hard, and it's not like death's easier because I've had to experience it more.
Yep. Nope.
But you do have to think about it differently when you're faced with it. You have to think about it, you know, in the fact that it does happen to everyone, and
Yep.
you do have to think about it in the fact that they are no longer suffering, and you think about everyone on the other side. Like you said, my dad was leaving this great assembly of us on this side that loved him so much and going to the other side.
Yeah.
I mean, his wife passed away when he was young, his first wife. And it's weird. So both of my parents lost a spouse at a young age, and both of them were
Yes.
like really random things. So
Your mom's first husband died of Lyme disease, right? Wasn't it
the hantavirus.
Oh, but you get it from like a tick bite, right?
Mice. It's
Mice.
from
Okay.
mice droppings. Yeah.
I remember it was like something super random because he hunted a lot. Is this right?
So that's like he had gone hunting, so it could have happened from that, I guess. They're not exactly sure how he got it, but it's from mouse droppings. It's like breathing in mouse dropping stuff, like you know, you stir it up in the dirt or whatever. That's why they always tell you, like, if you clean up mouse droppings, to wet it down when you're going to clean it up, because you don't want to breathe in the stuff. But like when he passed away, they didn't even know what it was. They didn't even know what hantavirus was. They had just kept like some of his blood samples and tests, and they found out later. So yeah, so totally random. He just got sick. You know, he just got sick and passed away, and nobody really knew why at first. So that was way random. And then my dad's wife like went in for a surgery. Surgery went wrong, didn't come home. You know, I remember Chris on our trip to Mexico was telling me, Cammie, I remember cleaning the house so that when mom came home from her surgery, the house would be clean. And she never came home. And Chris was like, we have known from a young age that sometimes your people just don't come home. You know, sometimes it doesn't work out. And anyway, so yeah, I remember distinctly having that conversation with my sister, and I didn't have that. Like both
how
my
ironic
lived
too
forever,
that Chris
you know?
is
So
how ironic is that too that Chris is the one telling you sometimes your people just don't come home.
yeah, I know,
right? Like it's almost like
I never thought of that.
A foreshadowing. Like
yeah, yep, absolutely. Yeah, it's hard to go to her house still. It feels weird without her there, but
yeah. I'm sorry. Oh, yeah. My kids are kind of getting Brooklyn. We've been talking about death a bit lately with my kids, and it's like we all just like we all have to be born, we all have to die. And some people get to live longer, but we're just moving on to the next phase. Like it's not the end. It's not the end. It's just another step. And I don't know. Like, you know, I think, but it's not an easy step.
No, well,
especially when it's cut short, when you don't feel like they got to live their long life, you know?
Yeah. And, you know, I think especially for those of us left behind, like it's probably a great step for the people going, you know, but, and, you know, I just, I don't get to know all the answers for Chris. So I just make up my own story, and my story is my dad came to get her, you know?
Yeah.
So,
yeah. Him and his, both of them, her dad and her mom.
Yep, exactly. They both got to come get her.
I love that. I think you're probably right. I think that's probably exactly how it happened. That you can still have that faith and hope and know that, like I said, just down in your bones, that this isn't the end. I'm going to see her again, and we'll find out the answers someday, right?
Yep.
We'll figure it out someday. So
We'll get to see the whole plan laid out. Because right now the pieces of it don't make sense, right?
no, we're all looking
Yeah.
at our puzzle upside down. We have no clue what this picture is yet, for the
Yep.
most part. But
I agree.
well, thank you so much for talking to me
Yeah.
and with us, and
Problem.
for sharing. It was good to talk to you, and
You too.
yeah, I'm glad life's going good. You've got your big kid that's about to graduate, and you've got your baby girl that you always
That's
knew you
right.
were going to have. Probably the
I
only thing in
know.
your
She
life
goes
that
to
you.
dance class with me. It's like
I
the
love
coolest
it.
thing.
I
Yeah.
love it. Tomboy Cammy, the dance teacher.
Well, right?
Who would have thought? Who would have thought? Oh.
The truth.
Thank you so much for coming on, Cammie, and for reaching out. I've loved hearing all of this. If you are listening and would like to share some of your own miracles that have happened in your life, you can email us at thedivineinourtime@gmail.com. Again, that's at thedivineinourtime@gmail.com. There's also going to be a link in the podcast description if you want to click on that there. And you can send us just a quick synopsis of what you'd like to share and how to get in touch. And we'd love to share your story. In the meantime, God has not ceased to be a God of miracles. Thank you so much for tuning in to The Divine in Our Time. This is your host, Brittany Neal, and until next time.